Anthony,
Claudine.
we're here today to talk about how to eliminate a tax problem the IRSMedic way. Tax problems are very common, more common than people think.
That's right.
And we received an email from someone that has a tax problem, and I loved a quote that he said, "I definitely want to be in compliance with the least amount of pain as possible."
That sounds very reasonable to me.
Preach, brother.
Yes, and that sounds exactly what we try to help people with, is the least amount of pain. And there's all sorts of different kinds of pain. There's financial pain. There's also pain of being misled. There's pain of humiliation. There's all sorts of pain, and we want to limit it to the smallest amount possible. That is the IRSMedic way.
Yes. And I think people, when it's your problem, you feel like it's the most complicated, huge issue in the world. But we find that, I want to say, about 80% of tax problems that we deal with are relatively simple.
That's right.
Not very
Right.
complicated.
And I mean, I understand that with how complicated the IRS makes things look, and the notices to you and the powers they have, yeah, it's going to seem pretty scary. And that's why, it's so scary people ignore it.
And I think it doesn't help, the tax resolution industry has a tendency, and we've made some calls ourselves to some of our competition.
Yes.
They definitely use some scare tactics.
Oh,
They
yes.
inflate issues, and sometimes they miss critical issues.
Yes. And you've done a lot of great calls, and you've spiked your calls with issues in there to see if they would recognize it. And time again, they miss it. And then as you've listened to their scare tactics, they're saying something that's sort of true, but there'd be a lot that would have to happen in order to be done. And we really shouldn't be thinking about that scare. Why don't we get the fix and we don't have to worry about that?
There's also tax attorneys like
Yes.
yourself.
We do love tax attorneys, and I do love talking to them. But when I do talk to tax attorneys and attorneys at large, my conversations do seem to go on for quite a bit. Attorneys are long-winded. We do enjoy that.
Yes.
But sometimes you need to get something done.
So the IRSMedic approach is the same as the gentleman said. We want to keep it as simple as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we find that when people contact us, it's because there's usually something going on in their life. They've been dealing with a tax issue for 5 years, 6 years, but suddenly they may want to buy a home,
That's right.
get married. They want to travel, and they're afraid if they go to the airport, their passport could now be revoked. So our question is, why not find out what's going on and fix it now? Why wait?
And that's hard to do. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do unless people have something pushing them to that edge where they have to do something. The IRS is something that your instinct is to ignore it because it is creating all these negative emotions. And you also have a negative emotion associated with addressing it because you don't know that there's actually an effective way to get it done. And you think it might cost more. You think that someone's going to take advantage of you. So there is a way. So it's got to be something so painful that's making you confront it so that you pick up a phone or email someone to say, okay, that's it. I need to be in compliance. And by the way, 5 years isn't even a long time. People ignore this. It's 10 years. And we've gotten emails from people 20 years. And then one gentleman who I did meet with a few years ago was 1984. He started with his tax problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
We're saying, too, we've been talking a bit about the private debt collection agencies that the IRS will now be using. That's another thing. If you take care of your issue now, you don't have to worry about the IRS calling you and these private debt collectors.
Yeah, we did a video just yesterday on them, and some of there's 4 private debt collection agencies, and they all have reviews online of who they are. And, we don't expect glowing reviews of these private debt collection agencies by people they're collecting from, but there is a lot of people who weren't being collected from directly, but they were talked to as if they owed the debt. They claimed they were treated rude. Rude was the number one word. Obnoxious, violating the law, unethical. I don't know, I'm not here to say I wasn't there on the conversation, but there at least is that impression that these people, it's going to be a humiliating call to get, and they're going to call people that you know. That's their, in order to facilitate a response from you, they'll call places you used to work, maybe, places you used to live.
Family.
So maybe you don't want that happening. That is how private debt collections can be more effective than the IRS, because the IRS can't make those outbound calls. But that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to create a pressure point so much that you will have to deal with it then.
Yeah. Okay, so step one that we always look at first
Absolutely. Yep.
is, what do you need?
That's right.
We need to know for sure what's going on with your IRS problem. A lot of the places that I've called just quote me blindly. $5,000 will get you an offer in compromise. Well, you don't even know exactly what I owe. How can you do that?
Right, and they're adamant in their promises, and they're so confident in their promises to a point where I've listened into your calls. I'm like, wow, but does he know something I don't know? No, they don't, and they're just selling you something, because that's really not the appropriate situation. And then you've actually done this in many cases. You've spiked these calls with undisclosed foreign accounts and foreign income, and no one picked it up.
Nope.
No one picked it up to say, oh, actually, that's a pretty significant issue that we'd want to address this way. They really don't know. They tend to know offer and compromise, and that's what they're taught to train, settle pennies on a dollar. You know, the thing is most people don't really, getting a deal with the IRS. This is the client people who hire us. They're not necessarily looking for, I want to pay the least amount to the IRS. What they're looking for is, I just want this to be done, where I can sleep at night, where I'm not worried about what's coming in my mailbox. I'm not worried about my employer, my vendors, my bank accounts. It's just settled. I know what's going on, and there's an end in sight. And it's over with. And a lot of people just aren't looking. It's the least amount to the IRS isn't really what's important to them.
So step one, we call it the total tax diagnosis.
That's right.
That's our thing. And we find out exactly what the IRS thinks about you, how much you owe, when the debt's going to expire.
Yep.
And sometimes it ends right there.
Right, and also one of the things you learn is if you're due a refund, your date you have to file that refund to. Because we've run into that where people think they're owing the IRS. No, they owe you, but you better act quick. Do this right now. So that's, the thing for us is it's a lot of fun. When somebody calls in with a huge issue, we run a report to say you're all set.
Yeah.
It is a special joy. I suppose, that some fees we're missing out on, but we have plenty of people to help. I mean, there's millions.
Yeah.
Of U.S. taxpayers. That's the thing. It's somewhere between, depending on how you count it, 1 to 2 million taxpayers, just like you. So you're really not alone.
In good company.
Yeah.
So we do that first step. We find out what's going on. Sometimes it ends there. Maybe it was a scam call that frightened someone.
Sure.
Maybe their
Yep.
tax debt expired and
Yep.
they don't have to worry about it
That's right.
anymore. If they do have an issue, step two, we create a plan to solve the problem in the simplest way possible.
Right.
Simple for them, simple for us.
That's right.
We
And
don't-
the simple way might be telling them, here, if you want to do this step yourself, you can, or if you want to hire us to do this. Now, 20% of the cases or so are going to be a little bit more complicated, where there's many things that have gone on, people filing wrong forms, an audit going on, an audit that didn't go well, unpaid employee taxes. I mean, things can get complicated, but we have to at least start with trying to simplify to see what is really going on, what are the priorities. And the other thing we want to make sure, too, to make sure you're not under active threat of collection where the IRS can just kind of swoop into your bank account. So that changes the fear from sort of a perspective fear, like, oh, what's the IRS going to do, to, oh, wow, they did it. My checks I wrote are going to bounce now. I don't have any money for the weekend. They actually took it. It does happen.
And we like to keep it simple for ourselves, too. Our team here working, we don't want them to spend extra time trying to solve the problem. We want them to get in, make a taxpayer happy, and solve the problem.
Yeah, that's where we have our most enjoyment. Cases like that where we're able to get in, get out quickly, effectively. It's a lot of pride, and we really enjoy it.
Yep. So if you do have a tax issue, don't hesitate to contact us. You don't have to wait to solve the problem. Call us now, 888-727-8796. You can also email info@irsmedic.com. We'll get you set up with a consultation, and we'll let you know the best plan to solve your problem. You can like and comment below. You can subscribe to our channel for more awesome tax updates. And we want to thank you so much for watching. You going to ring your bell?
I'm going to ring the cowbell. We haven't done this yet.
You got to ring it.
Can you show me how to ring it then?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Incredible grip strength.
You're going to ring your cowbell, man. More cowbell.
More cowbell. That's how you ring a cowbell.